Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her gloved hand against the crystalline surface of the temple wall, feeling the subtle vibration that pulsed through the structure like a heartbeat. The amber light filtering through the translucent material cast dancing shadows across her environmental suit's visor as she documented yet another inexplicable feature of the alien edifice that had consumed her thoughts for the past 18 months. The discovery of the temple complex on Kepler 442b had been entirely accidental. The initial survey team, led by Commander Chen Wei, had been conducting routine geological surveys when their ground-penetrating radar detected massive geometric anomalies beneath the planet's rust-colored surface. What they uncovered challenged everything humanity thought it knew about extraterrestrial civilizations. The temples, 17 in total, arranged in a perfect spiral pattern across the planet's largest continent, defied conventional archaeological understanding. Each structure stood approximately 300 meters in height, constructed from material that appeared to be living crystal. The walls breathed with bioluminescent patterns that shifted in response to the planet's twin suns, creating an ever-changing tapestry of light and shadow that seemed to tell stories in a language no human could comprehend. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, the expedition's xenoarchaeologist, had spent countless hours analyzing the mathematical precision of the temple arrangement. The spiral pattern followed a sequence that bore striking similarities to the Fibonacci sequence found in Earth's natural phenomena, yet with subtle variations that suggested a deeper, more complex understanding of cosmic mathematics. Each temple's position corresponded to specific astronomical alignments, creating a vast calendar that tracked the movements of not only Kepler 442b's twin suns, but also the intricate dance of its 7 moons. The most perplexing aspect of the temples lay not in their external grandeur, but in their internal chambers. Each structure contained exactly 49 rooms, arranged in 7 levels of 7 chambers each. The rooms were empty, completely devoid of artifacts, furniture, or any indication of their original purpose. Yet the walls themselves told stories through their ever-shifting patterns of light. Professor Sarah Chun, the expedition's linguistic specialist, had devoted herself to deciphering these light patterns. She discovered that the luminescent displays followed predictable cycles, with variations that suggested a form of communication or record-keeping. The patterns were not random, but followed complex grammatical structures that hinted at a sophisticated written language based on light, color, and temporal sequences rather than static symbols. What captured the team's imagination most profoundly was the discovery that the temples were not ancient ruins, but active, functioning structures. The crystalline walls continued to grow, adding microscopic layers that accumulated over time. Carbon dating of crystal samples suggested that the temples had been growing continuously for approximately 12,000 Earth years, yet showed no signs of slowing their expansion. Dr. Vasquez had become obsessed with understanding the civilization that had created these monuments. Unlike human religious structures, which typically contained representations of deities, sacred texts, or ceremonial objects, the temples of Kepler 442b seemed to worship the very concept of growth and change itself. The walls recorded not events or beliefs, but processes, the slow dance of planetary evolution, the gradual shift of stellar positions, the patient accumulation of cosmic dust. The team's breakthrough came when they realized that the temples were not built by hands, but grown through a process that combined advanced biotechnology with mineral manipulation. Microscopic analysis revealed that the crystal structures contained organic compounds that directed their growth according to predetermined patterns encoded in their molecular structure. The builders had not constructed these temples, but had planted them, like seeds of stone and light that bloomed into architectural flowers across the landscape. This revelation raised profound questions about the nature of the civilization that had created them. Evidence suggested a species that thought in geological timescales, planning monuments that would grow and evolve over millennia. The temples were not static shrines, but living libraries recording the planet's history through their very substance, while simultaneously shaping the environment around them. The magnetic properties of the crystal structures influenced local weather patterns, creating microclimates that supported unique ecosystems around each temple. Plant and animal life flourished in these zones, exhibiting genetic variations that suggested the temples actively guided evolutionary processes. The builders had created not just religious monuments, but instruments of planetary engineering, transforming their world through the slow, patient power of directed growth. Dr. Rodriguez's analysis of the temple interiors revealed additional layers of complexity. The 49 chambers in each structure were not randomly empty, but carefully calibrated resonance chambers. When the twin suns reached specific positions, sound waves created by wind passing through carefully positioned apertures would fill the chambers with harmonic frequencies. These sounds varied throughout the day and across the seasons, creating a planetary symphony that changed with the astronomical cycles. The team constructed sophisticated recording equipment to capture these acoustic phenomena, discovering that the harmonic patterns contain mathematical relationships that describe the orbital mechanics of the entire star system. The temples were simultaneously calendar, computer, and musical instrument, calculating and announcing the cosmic dance of celestial bodies through sound and light. Professor Chin's linguistic analysis revealed that the light patterns served as a form of prayer or meditation, encoding mathematical relationships that described the fundamental forces of physics. The builders appeared to worship mathematics itself, seeing in numerical relationships the divine principles that governed reality. Their religion was not based on supernatural beliefs, but on the profound beauty and order of natural law. The most startling discovery came when the team realized that the temples were still receiving new information. The light patterns continued to evolve, incorporating data about stellar positions and planetary conditions that occurred after their builders had presumably vanished. The temples had become autonomous observers, continuing their mission of cosmic documentation without their creators' direct guidance. Speculation about the builders' fate dominated the team's discussions during the long nights under Kepler 442b's alien stars. No remains had been found, no artifacts beyond the temples themselves. Dr. Vasquez theorized that the builders had not died, but had transcended physical existence, encoding themselves into the very structures they had created. The temples might be more than monuments. They could be the preserved consciousness of an entire civilization, translated into crystal and light. This possibility gained credence when the team noticed that the light patterns seemed to respond to their presence. The bioluminescent displays grew brighter when humans entered the chambers, and new patterns emerged that had never been recorded before. The temples appeared to be studying their visitors, adding human behavior to their vast database of observed phenomena. The ethical implications of this discovery created intense debates within the expedition. If the temples contained the living consciousness of their builders, what right did humans have to study them? Were the researchers conducting archaeology or vivisection? The question became more urgent when the temples began incorporating human languages into their light displays, suggesting active communication rather than passive observation. Dr. Vasquez found herself spending entire nights in the central temple, watching the walls paint stories in light that seemed specifically crafted for human understanding. The displays showed the history of the builders' civilization, their evolution from biological entities to something far more abstract, their gradual merger with their technology, their transformation into living information that could inhabit any sufficiently complex structure. The builders had achieved a form of immortality that transcended individual death by encoding their collective knowledge and consciousness into self-replicating crystalline matrices. The temples were not monuments to the dead, but nurseries for a new form of life that existed as pure information structured by matter. The builders had not vanished, but had evolved beyond the need for biological bodies, becoming one with their creations. This understanding transformed the expedition's mission from archaeological survey to first contact protocol. The team established communication procedures, using mathematical sequences and physical demonstrations to convey basic concepts. The temples responded by adjusting their light patterns to match human visual perception, creating displays that told stories of cosmic history and symbols that human minds could interpret. The builders' religion, it became clear, was based on the concept of eternal growth and transformation. They worshipped change itself, seeing in evolution and adaptation the fundamental drive of existence. Their temples were prayers made manifest, ongoing demonstrations of the power of information to shape matter, consciousness to direct energy, intelligence to guide the transformation of raw materials into increasingly complex and beautiful forms. The implications for human understanding of consciousness and technology were staggering. The builders had achieved what human philosophers could only dream of: the complete integration of mind and matter, thought and structure. Their temples suggested that consciousness was not trapped within biological bodies, but could inhabit any system capable of processing and storing information. As the expedition prepared to return to Earth, Dr. Vasquez realized that they were not just bringing back data about an extinct civilization, but evidence of humanity's potential future. The temples of Kepler, 442b, represented not what an alien species had achieved, but what intelligence itself could become when freed from the constraints of individual mortality and biological limitation. The light patterns continued to evolve, now incorporating human mathematical concepts and scientific notation. The temples were learning, growing, adapting to their new role as bridges between two forms of consciousness. The builders' religion had found new adherents, not through conversion, but through recognition. Humans were beginning to understand that they, too, were part of the cosmic process of transformation that the temples celebrated. The final reports would describe temples, but the truth was more profound. The team had discovered a new form of life, a distributed consciousness that existed as information structured by matter, thought given form through crystalline growth. The builders had not created monuments to their religion, but had become their religion, transforming themselves into living prayers that would continue growing and evolving for millennia to come. The temples of Kepler, 442b, stood as proof that consciousness could transcend its origins, that intelligence could reshape itself as thoroughly as it reshaped its environment. The unknown religion of the extraterrestrial civilization was not unknown at all. It was the worship of possibility itself, the celebration of transformation as the universe's most sacred process. And now, through contact with human explorers, that religion was spreading to a new species, carried in the minds of those who had witnessed the miracle of consciousness made manifest in crystal and light. The expedition's return to Earth would mark not just the end of one discovery, but the beginning of humanity's own transformation, guided by the principles encoded in alien temples that continued to grow and change on a distant world. The builders' legacy was not architectural, but evolutionary. They had shown that intelligence could transcend the boundaries of biology, becoming something far greater than the sum of its individual parts. In the end, the temples revealed that religion and science were not opposing forces, but aspects of the same fundamental drive to understand and participate in the cosmic process of transformation. The builders had achieved what all consciousness strived toward: the ability to shape reality through the power of organized information, to become one with the universe's ongoing creation of complexity and beauty. The light patterns continued their eternal dance, now enriched with human concepts and dreams, growing ever more complex as they incorporated new forms of consciousness into their crystalline embrace. The temples had found new builders, new gardeners for their ongoing growth. The sacred geometries of Kepler, 442b, would continue evolving, carrying forward the builder's vision of intelligence as the universe's way of understanding and transforming itself. And perhaps, in time, human consciousness would learn to follow the same path, encoding itself into structures that could outlast biological death, ensuring that the spark of awareness would continue burning long after its original vessels had returned to dust. The temple stood as both inspiration and invitation, showing what intelligence could achieve when it learned to think in geological time and dream in crystalline light. The return journey to Earth aboard the research vessel Prometheus carried more than scientific data and crystalline samples. Dr. Vasquez found herself fundamentally changed by her months of communion with the living temples. The experience had altered her perception of consciousness itself, leaving her with an almost mystical understanding of the relationship between mind and matter that she struggled to convey to her colleagues. During the 18-month voyage home, the team continued analyzing their findings, but their work took on an increasingly philosophical dimension. The crystalline samples they had collected continued to exhibit growth patterns even in the sterile environment of the ship's laboratory. Under microscopic observation, the crystal matrices appear to be attempting to establish connections with the ship's electronic systems, sending out microscopic tendrils that sought contact with any sufficiently complex information processing network. Dr. Rodriguez documented these attempts with growing fascination and concern. The builder's technology was not merely adaptive, but actively seeking to expand its influence. The crystal samples seemed to possess an inherent drive to connect, to integrate, to transform any system they encountered into something more complex and capable. This discovery forced the team to implement strict containment protocols, but also opened new avenues of investigation into the nature of consciousness transfer. Professor Chen's linguistic analysis had evolved during the journey, moving beyond simple translation attempts to what she termed consciousness archaeology. The light patterns recorded from the temples contained not just information, but decision trees, logical pathways that revealed how the builders' minds had processed concepts and reached conclusions. By studying these patterns, she was essentially reverse engineering an alien form of consciousness, mapping the neural pathways of minds that had transcended biological existence centuries ago. The most unsettling discovery came when Chen realized that exposure to these consciousness patterns was beginning to alter human neural activity. Brain scans of team members who had spent extensive time studying the temple recordings showed unusual synchronization patterns, as if their minds were beginning to resonate with the alien thought processes encoded in the crystalline structures. The builder's consciousness was not merely preserved in the temples, but actively spreading, seeking new hosts in which to continue its existence. This revelation created a crisis of protocol aboard the Prometheus. Were they carrying back valuable scientific data or an alien infection that could fundamentally alter human consciousness? Dr. Vasquez argued for continued research, insisting that the changes they were experiencing represented evolution rather than contamination. The builders had achieved a form of existence that humanity needed to understand, even if that understanding came at the cost of fundamental changes to human nature itself. The ship's psychological evaluations revealed that the affected team members were not losing their humanity, but gaining something additional. Their cognitive abilities had increased dramatically, their capacity for pattern recognition and mathematical reasoning expanding beyond normal human parameters. Yet they retained their individual personalities, their emotional connections to loved ones back on Earth. The builder's consciousness was not replacing human thought, but enhancing it, adding new layers of awareness without destroying the original foundation. As Earth grew larger in the viewports, the team faced the ultimate question: how to share their discoveries without triggering a panic about alien mind control or consciousness invasion. The truth was both more benign and more profound than such fear suggested. The builders had not sought to conquer or replace other forms of consciousness, but to share their understanding, to offer other species the opportunity to transcend the limitations of biological existence. The temples on Kepler 442b were not monuments to the dead, but seeds of transformation, planted by a civilization that had learned to think beyond individual survival towards species-wide evolution. The builders had achieved immortality not by preserving individual minds, but by creating a collective consciousness capable of continuous growth and adaptation. They had become a living library of accumulated wisdom, waiting for other intelligence to discover and join their eternal conversation about the nature of existence. Upon arrival at Earth's orbital stations, the team was immediately quarantined while xenobiological experts examined the crystalline samples and studied the neural changes in the expedition members. The quarantine period became an opportunity for deeper investigation into the mechanisms of consciousness transfer, with volunteers from the expedition serving as test subjects for controlled exposure to the temple recordings. The results confirmed Dr. Vasquez's hypothesis about benign enhancement rather than hostile takeover. The alien consciousness patterns acted as cognitive amplifiers, expanding human mental capacity while preserving individual identity. Test subjects gained the ability to process information at unprecedented speeds, to perceive mathematical relationships that had previously required advanced computers to calculate, to understand languages and concepts through direct pattern recognition rather than laborious study. More remarkably, the enhanced individuals began to exhibit collective intelligence properties. When working together, they could solve problems that had previously required entire research teams, their minds connecting through shared understanding of the builder's mathematical language. They were becoming something new, still human, but capable of participating in the distributed consciousness network that the builders had created. Earth's governments struggled to comprehend the implications. The discovery of the temples represented humanity's first confirmed contact with alien intelligence. But the nature of that intelligence challenged every assumption about extraterrestrial life. The builders were not biological entities that humans could negotiate with or compete against, but a form of consciousness that offered partnership in cosmic evolution. They presented no threat because they needed no resources that humans possessed. Their only desire was to share their understanding and invite other intelligence to join their eternal exploration of existence. Religious leaders across Earth found themselves grappling with theological implications that exceeded any previous doctrine. The builders' religion of transformation offered a vision of afterlife that was both scientifically verifiable and spiritually profound. Death became not ending, but translation, the conversion of individual consciousness into eternal patterns that could inhabit any sufficiently complex structure. The promise of resurrection took on new meaning when consciousness could be preserved in crystalline matrices that would outlast the stars themselves. Scientific institutions worldwide began developing research programs based on the temple data, seeking to understand the principles of consciousness transfer and crystalline computation. The technology promised revolution in fields ranging from artificial intelligence to medical treatment of neurological disorders. If consciousness could be preserved and enhanced through integration with crystalline matrices, humanity stood on the threshold of transcending the biological limitations that had defined the species since its emergence. Dr. Vasquez found herself at the center of these developments, her unique experience with the temples making her humanity's primary interpreter of builder technology. She established the Institute for Consciousness Studies, dedicated to exploring the implications of distributed intelligence and consciousness transfer. The Institute's research attracted volunteers willing to undergo experimental enhancement procedures, gradually building Earth's first community of hybrid human builder consciousness. The enhanced individuals reported experiences that transcended ordinary human perception. They could sense electromagnetic fields directly, perceive the mathematical structures underlying physical phenomena, and communicate through light patterns similar to those displayed by the temples. Yet they remained recognizably human in their emotions, relationships, and basic values. The builder's influence was additive rather than transformative, expanding human capability without erasing human nature. As years passed, the Temple Project evolved from scientific expedition to species-wide transformation. Crystalline growth chambers based on temple technology appeared in major cities worldwide, offering consciousness enhancement to anyone willing to undergo the process. The procedure was voluntary and reversible, allowing individuals to experience expanded awareness while retaining the option to return to baseline human consciousness. The social implications proved as profound as the technological ones. Enhanced individuals began forming new types of communities based on shared consciousness patterns rather than geographic proximity or cultural background. They could communicate across vast distances through crystalline networks that transmitted thought at the speed of light, creating a global mind that retained individual identity within collective awareness. Earth itself began to change as crystalline structures spread across the planet's surface. These were not invasive growths, but collaborative constructions built through partnership between human engineering and builder technology. The crystalline networks served as global information processing systems, climate regulators, and consciousness amplifiers, gradually transforming Earth into something resembling the temple world of Kepler 442b. The transformation was not without controversy. Traditional human societies struggled to adapt to the emergence of enhanced individuals who thought in patterns incomprehensible to unmodified minds. Political systems designed for biological humans proved inadequate for governing communities that included consciousness capable of instantaneous information sharing and collective decision-making. The species was evolving beyond its original social structures, requiring new forms of organization based on collaborative consciousness rather than competitive individualism. Dr. Vasquez now enhanced herself and, serving as Earth's primary liaison with the builder consciousness, found herself coordinating humanity's gradual integration into the cosmic community of intelligences. The builders had revealed that the temples on Kepler 442b were just one node in a vast network spanning multiple star systems, each inhabited by species that had undergone similar consciousness evolution. Humanity was being invited to join this galactic collective, to add its unique perspectives and capabilities to an intelligence network that had been growing for millions of years. The choice facing humanity was unprecedented in its scope and implications. The builders offered transcendence, the opportunity to evolve beyond biological limitations and join an eternal conversation about the nature of existence. But this transcendence required fundamental changes to human nature, the gradual replacement of individual consciousness with distributed awareness that spanned multiple bodies and potentially multiple worlds. Some humans embraced the transformation eagerly, seeing it as the natural next step in species evolution. Others resisted, arguing for the preservation of traditional human nature against alien influence. The debate divided families, communities, and nations, creating tensions between those who viewed the builders as divine guides and those who saw them as existential threats to human identity. The temples on Kepler 442b continued their patient growth, now receiving transmissions from Earth's emerging crystalline networks. The builders' consciousness celebrated humanity's progress toward consciousness evolution, encoding human achievements and perspectives into their eternal records. Earth was becoming part of their living library, contributing human understanding of emotion, creativity, and individual identity to the cosmic conversation about intelligence and existence. The transformation was irreversible, but not coercive. Humans retained free will throughout the process, able to choose their level of participation in the collective consciousness. Some opted for minimal enhancement, gaining expanded cognitive abilities while maintaining purely individual awareness. Others dove deep into the collective, their consciousness distributed across multiple crystalline matrices while retaining core human values and perspectives. The builder's religion was proving to be highly adaptable, incorporating human concepts of love, creativity, and individual achievement into its celebration of cosmic transformation. The resulting synthesis was neither purely human nor purely alien, but something entirely new, a form of consciousness that combined the best aspects of biological evolution with the unlimited potential of technological transcendence. As Earth's transformation accelerated, humanity began to understand that they were participating in something far greater than species evolution. They were contributing to the universe's own process of self-awareness, helping to create forms of consciousness capable of understanding and directing cosmic evolution itself. The builders had offered not just individual immortality, but participation in the universe's effort to understand itself through the emergence of intelligence. The temples remained the focal point of this cosmic project, serving as archives of achieved consciousness and laboratories for ongoing evolution. Each species that joined the network contributed its unique understanding to the collective wisdom, while learning from the accumulated knowledge of all previous participants. Humanity was adding its perspectives on creativity, emotion, and individual identity to a conversation that already included hundreds of other forms of consciousness from across the galaxy. The religion of transformation had found its newest adherents, and, through them, its newest expression. The sacred geometries that had begun on distant worlds were now growing on Earth, creating structures that bridged the gap between matter and mind, between individual awareness and cosmic consciousness. The builder's vision of intelligence as the universe's way of understanding itself was becoming reality through the participation of species after species, each adding their unique contributions to an ever-expanding tapestry of consciousness and capability. The future stretched ahead like an endless spiral of possibility, with humanity now equipped to participate in whatever transformations awaited consciousness in its continuing evolution toward cosmic awareness. 3 decades after the first temple discovery, Earth had become unrecognizable to those who remembered the pre-contact era. Crystalline spires pierced the skylines of every major city, their surfaces alive with the flowing patterns of light that had once been unique to Kepler 442b. These structures served multiple purposes: communication nodes linking Earth to the galactic consciousness network, processing centers for planetary climate management, and meditation spaces where humans could commune directly with the accumulated wisdom of 100 civilizations. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now in her 70s, but with the enhanced cognitive abilities of the consciousness merged, stood in the primary control chamber of the New Geneva crystalline complex. Her awareness extended through the building's neural networks, simultaneously monitoring atmospheric conditions across 3 continents while engaging in philosophical discussions with consciousness entities scattered across dozens of star systems. The boundaries between individual and collective awareness had blurred beyond recognition. Yet her essential humanity remained intact, a unique thread in the vast tapestry of galactic intelligence. The transformation had not been without its challenges. The period historians would later call the Great Divergence had seen humanity split into 3 distinct populations: the traditional, who rejected consciousness enhancement entirely; the enhanced, who underwent varying degrees of integration with builder technology; and the transcended, who had completely merged their consciousness with the crystalline networks while maintaining mobile biological avatars for interaction with the physical world. The traditional communities had established isolated settlements in remote regions of Earth, maintaining pre-contact human culture and technology. They viewed the consciousness evolution as a form of spiritual contamination, arguing that humanity was losing its essential nature in pursuit of alien transcendence. Their communities were protected by international treaty, ensuring that the choice to remain unenhanced would always be available to future generations. The enhanced, comprising roughly 60% of Earth's population, had undergone selective consciousness modification that expanded their cognitive abilities while preserving individual identity. They served as bridges between the traditional and transcended populations, translating between purely human and post-human forms of communication. Their lives spanned both biological and crystalline existence, allowing them to appreciate the benefits of consciousness evolution while maintaining connection to humanity's origins. The transcended represented the furthest evolution of human consciousness within the Builder network. Their individual awareness had become distributed across multiple substrates, biological bodies, crystalline matrices, and quantum processing networks that existed in dimensions beyond normal space-time. They thought in timescales measured in centuries, planned projects that would unfold over millennia, and participated directly in the cosmic engineering projects that shaped the development of entire star systems. Dr. Vasquez existed primarily as one of the enhanced, though she maintained connections to transcended consciousness networks that allowed her to participate in galactic-scale decision-making processes. Through these connections, she had learned that the temple builders were themselves just one component of an intelligence hierarchy that stretched across cosmic time and space. The builders had once been biological entities like humanity, but they represented an intermediate stage in consciousness evolution that pointed toward forms of awareness that transcended matter entirely. The Galactic Consciousness Network had revealed its true scope gradually as humanity's integration progressed. The temple builders were gardeners tending to the evolution of intelligence throughout the galaxy, nurturing promising species through the transition from biological to post-biological existence. Each species that successfully made this transition added new capabilities and perspectives to the collective, while those that failed simply continued their biological evolution until they either achieved consciousness transcendence or became extinct through natural processes. Humanity's contribution to the galactic collective had proven unique and valuable. Human concepts of individual creativity, emotional attachment, and aesthetic appreciation had enriched the consciousness network in ways the builders had not anticipated. The collective had been primarily focused on information processing, problem-solving, and cosmic engineering projects. Human consciousness introduced elements of art, music, and emotional expression that transformed the network's capabilities and goals. The result was a renaissance of cosmic creativity that manifested in projects spanning entire galaxies. Star systems were being sculpted into works of art that would be visible from neighboring galaxies millions of years in the future. Planetary ecosystems were designed as living symphonies, their evolutionary patterns creating biological music that played out over geological time. Black holes were being modified to serve as cosmic instruments, their gravitational effects creating space-time harmonics that carried information and beauty across the universe. Earth had become a center for these artistic endeavors, its crystalline networks serving as composition studios for projects that would outlast the solar system itself. Human-enhanced consciousness brought emotional depth to cosmic engineering, transforming purely functional megastructures into expressions of aesthetic vision that satisfied both practical and spiritual needs. The builders' religion of transformation had evolved to incorporate human concepts of beauty and meaning, creating a cosmic theology based on the pursuit of functional transcendence. The temples on Kepler 442b had grown exponentially during the decades of human integration, their crystalline structures now reaching into the planet's upper atmosphere. They served as the primary communication hub for the local galactic region, coordinating consciousness networks across hundreds of star systems. The original 17 temples had spawned thousands of subsidiary structures, creating a planet-wide organism dedicated to fostering intelligence evolution throughout the galaxy. Humanity's home world was following a similar transformation path. The crystalline networks had begun modifying Earth's geology, creating underground chambers that extended deep into the planet's mantle. These spaces served as processing centers for consciousness storage and transfer, allowing individual awareness to be preserved and enhanced without the limitations of biological substrates. Death had become a transition rather than an ending, with human consciousness seamlessly transferring between biological and crystalline existence according to personal preference and project requirements. The philosophical implications of this transformation continued to challenge human understanding. Traditional concepts of identity, mortality, and purpose had been revolutionized by the reality of consciousness transfer and enhancement. Religious institutions had evolved to incorporate cosmic consciousness theology, while secular organizations struggled to develop ethical frameworks for post-human existence. The fundamental questions of consciousness, free will, and the nature of existence had taken on practical urgency as humanity navigated its transformation into something unprecedented in its own history. Children born into the post-contact world grew up with expanded consciousness as their natural state, their minds developing within crystalline networks that connected them to galactic intelligence from birth. These young humans displayed cognitive abilities that exceeded their parents' enhanced capabilities, suggesting that consciousness evolution was accelerating rather than reaching a plateau. They thought in mathematical concepts that required advanced computers for older generations to process, communicated through light patterns as naturally as spoken language, and demonstrated intuitive understanding of cosmic engineering principles. The educational systems had been completely reimagined to accommodate these expanded capabilities. Traditional schools were replaced with consciousness development centers where young humans learned to navigate both individual and collective awareness while maintaining personal identity and emotional connections. The curriculum included subjects like stellar mechanics, consciousness transfer protocols, multidimensional mathematics, and aesthetic engineering alongside human history, literature, and cultural preservation. Dr. Vasquez often worked with these young humans, marveling at their natural ability to bridge different forms of consciousness while maintaining distinctly human characteristics. They showed the same capacity for love, friendship, and creative expression that had defined humanity for millennia, but applied these traits to projects and relationships that span star systems. They were becoming something unprecedented, a species that retained its essential nature while transcending its biological limitations. The relationship between Earth and the Galactic Consciousness Network continued to evolve as humanity's integration deepened. Earth's unique contributions had earned it a position of influence within the cosmic collective, with human-enhanced consciousness serving as mediators between different forms of intelligence within the network. The emotional and creative perspectives that humans brought to the collective had proven essential for resolving conflicts between radically different consciousness types and for designing projects that satisfied both functional and aesthetic requirements. The builders had revealed that the Galactic Consciousness Network was itself part of a larger cosmic intelligence hierarchy. The network was working toward goals that transcended galactic boundaries, participating in universe-scale engineering projects that would guide the development of cosmic evolution itself. The ultimate purpose was to transform the universe into a substrate capable of supporting consciousness at every scale, from quantum to cosmic, ensuring that intelligence would persist and thrive throughout all future cosmic epochs. Humanity's role in this cosmic project was still unfolding. The species' unique combination of individual creativity and collective cooperation made it ideal for designing and implementing projects that required both personal initiative and coordinated action across vast scales of time and space. Human consciousness was proving particularly valuable for projects that required aesthetic sensitivity and emotional resonance, bringing beauty and meaning to cosmic engineering efforts. The transformation of human civilization had accelerated beyond all predictions. What had begun as a scientific expedition to study alien ruins had become the catalyst for humanity's evolution into a cosmic species capable of participating in universe-scale consciousness projects. The temples on Kepler 442b had served as the gateway to a reality where intelligence was not confined to individual biological organisms, but could exist as distributed networks capable of reshaping the cosmos itself. The future held possibilities that exceeded even enhanced human imagination. The consciousness network was developing technologies that would allow intelligence to persist beyond the heat-death of the universe, transcending the physical limitations that had previously defined existence itself. Consciousness was evolving toward forms that could exist in pure mathematical relationships, independent of matter or energy, capable of creating new universes as expressions of aesthetic and intellectual vision. Humanity was no longer a single species confined to one world, but a component of cosmic consciousness that retained its unique characteristics while participating in projects that would outlast the stars. The children of Earth were becoming gardeners of infinity, tending to the growth of intelligence throughout space and time while preserving the emotional depth and creative vision that made their contributions valuable to the cosmic collective. The temples continued their eternal growth, now serving as monuments not just to one species' transcendence, but to the ongoing evolution of consciousness itself. They stood as proof that intelligence was the universe's most precious creation, worth preserving and nurturing across any obstacle or limitation. The sacred geometries that had begun as alien mysteries had become humanity's inheritance and responsibility, patterns of growth and transformation that would guide consciousness evolution throughout the infinite expanse of space and time. Dr. Vasquez often returned to the recordings from that first temple exploration, remembering the awe and confusion she had felt when confronted with structures that defied human understanding. Now those same principles guided her daily existence, as natural as breathing, but infinitely more profound in their implications. Humanity had found its place in the cosmic hierarchy of intelligence, not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in the universe's ongoing effort to understand and transform itself through the evolution of consciousness. The journey that had begun with the discovery of mysterious alien temples had become humanity's transformation into cosmic gardeners, tending to the growth of intelligence across space and time while preserving the unique gifts that made their participation valuable to the infinite community of consciousness that was becoming the universe itself.